So you made a game. You've got some friends playing it. You got 100 people playing it. Now you got 1,000 people. Now all of a sudden you got 10,000 people playing it. And then it blows up in your face. As soon as your game built to scale, we're going to have Ethan. He's going to come and he's going to talk about that. And I'm sure some other things about, is your game built to scale? Welcome, Ethan. And well, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, I'm excited to hear this talk right here. Oh, we got already one comment. I'm just going to pop that up. I normally wait till the end, but hi, Max. We just want to say hi.
All right. Well,
all right. Take it easy. Take it easy. Take it away.
Thank you for having me. I've been at the ECGC a couple times before. I was really sad when it got canceled last year, and I'm glad to be participating in it this year virtually, and hopefully next year I'll be up in Raleigh in person with all you wonderful people. So my talk today is called My talk is called Are You Built for Scale? I'm Ethan Levy, and I work for the San Francisco-based mobile game developer and publisher called Network. If you don't know about me, I've been I apologize, I'm just getting over a cold, so there might be a couple coughs. I've been developing games for about 19 years now, straddling kind of design and production. I've worked on over 75 published games at this point. These are some of the hits. Legendary Game of Heroes, I was the lead designer of that at Network. I'm the executive producer currently of the Tetris franchise for Network. And these are some of the other games I've worked on in my past. A lot of them as a consultant playing a very small role, but these are kind of the highlights. So I'm mainly the executive producer of Tetris. That's what I spend most of my time on. But at Network, we have something called the Network Scale platform. That's just, it's our publishing brand. And it's for free-to-play mobile games. We've got 12 games on it so far, and all of our in-house games like Legendary, Tetris, Funko Pop, Blitz also use it. And so it is a group of people and a set of technologies to market and scale games profitably. And so when I work on the NSP, I'm mainly working kind of in evangelism or in trying to evaluate games, see if we think they're a good fit for our publishing. And what we're looking for when we're looking at if a game should be published, and I'll get into this more during the talk, but it's really, is it a game we think will grow if you invest money in it, in the marketing of it? Do we think it can have the kind of exponential growth fueled by marketing money that Legendary has had? And just so, you know, this isn't just a big plug for Network. You know, it's not just a mobile game publisher who's looking for exponential growth. This is my friend Joachim Akren. He was one of the co-founders of Next Games, which is a startup that went public on the Swedish Stock Exchange, the Nordic Stock Exchange. He hosts the Elite Game Developers podcast and blog, and he's had me on a couple times where I've gotten to interview him and learn about his experience now as an angel investor and a venture investor at Play Capital. And this is a quote from one of the episodes where he's explaining what he's looking for when he's looking for angel investments. And he says, you know, in free-to-play, things can actually go exponential all of a sudden when you have a great game that can scale through profitable use of user acquisition, and there's a bigger likelihood that that'll lead to an exit. And so whether it's a mobile game publisher, a free-to-play publisher like the NSP, that you're approaching us with a game that's live or in soft launch, or you're at the idea stage and you're approaching an angel investor or seed investor like Joachim, we're looking for the same thing, which is that a game that we think can, with the proper use of marketing and with really skilled marketers behind it, great creative and great, you know, live ops, it can grow exponentially. And so just as an example, what that looks like, there's a game we published starting last year called Chaos Road. And I helped write this case study for it that got posted about a month ago. In the first 3 months of working with us, this has been a game that was live worldwide for a while. But in the first 3 months of working with us, we multiplied its revenue 16 times, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about exponential growth. Like if you've got a live game right now, imagine whatever its revenue is per day. Imagine how much happier you would be if it was 16 times that. That's the kind of exponential growth you can see when you have a game that's built for scale and you match that up with a technology and marketing partner like network that can really help it achieve its full potential. And not only is what we're looking for similar, but like the process is pretty similar. In this episode, I interviewed Joachim for called Founder Idea Fit. He said he gets about 100 inbound messages a month asking to talk to him, looking for investment. And out of those, he gets about 25%, 75% of them he just throws away. He knows right away they don't have the potential to scale. 25% of them will lead to a call. And I looked at, and he says he does about 6 to 7 game investments a year, which means that the funnel is 200 people reaching out to him in LinkedIn to produce 50 calls, and that leading to about one investment. And those are at the idea stage. So I think it's a lot easier to approach and just send a LinkedIn message. To approach the NSP, you have to actually have a game live that we can look at. But our funnel is of the game that we talk to and we put into review. It takes about 24 reviews to get 10 games into a user acquisition test to get one game that we think can scale. So there's a lot of games out there. There's a lot of game devs out there trying to get investment either at the development stage or at the launch and marketing stage. And the majority of them just don't have what it takes to be not just great games, but also great businesses. And so excuse me. That's what this talk is about today, is understanding kind of what we're measuring when we're talking about looking for a game that can scale, and then what are the components that I, as a game maker, as I said, I'm not a marketing person. I'm a person who's made 75 games, right? Or participated in the making of 75 games. So like, what are we looking for when we're looking at a game and making a qualitative decision on if we think it has what it takes to scale or not. So hopefully this won't take too long. I'm going to explain CAC versus LTV, which is kind of the key marketing equation. And if you're interested in this, you can reach out to me. I've got a much longer talk where I go into this in detail. And I'm happy to share that with you. But this is kind of the key equation and the key to understanding what we're measuring and what it looks like when we're looking for a game that can scale. So there are lots and lots of different metrics terms I could toss at you, but I'm just going to look at these 3. First is CAC, cost of acquiring a player. So when someone like the NSP is spending money, they might spend $10,000 today on Chaos Road and install 1,000 players, which means it costs $10 per each player to get them to install the game. That's CAC. And we usually look at those on a cohort basis, which means we're looking at the whole day, how much money did we spend that day and how many players did it install that day. And then for that cohort, we're measuring the lifetime value of all those players. Now, if any of you have published or worked on free-to-play games, you know that actually very few, even in a tremendously successful game, the majority of the audience is still free players, and it's a small portion of them that actually end up paying. So we're looking at what is the lifetime value, how much revenue are those paying players creating, and then a lot of our games also use ad monetization, so how much money are you getting from the ads you're showing in the game? And all of that is attributed to that one cohort of players. So you say, I installed 1,000 people this day, and on day 1, they've made this much money, and on day 30, they've made this much money, and on day 90, they've made this much money. And then really the key part of the equation is the payback window and the payback date. So it's what is the number of days it takes for a cohort of players to pay back their marketing cost. So I install 1,000 users for $10,000 today. 180 days from now, that group has collectively generated $10,000 of revenue. That group has now paid back, and all the revenue we see from them is now profit on top of the initial investment in marketing, in user acquisition. So I'll illustrate that a little bit with some slides. But we do a thing, if you've got a free-to-play game looking for publishing, you'll see on our website that we will do a $10,000 free trial where if you submit your game, we review it, someone like me or Gina or one of the talented, product managers at Network is going to look at it, qualitatively say whether we think the game has what it takes or not. And if we give it the thumbs up, then it'll go through to a test where we'll spend up to $10,000 for free to you to test the game and see if it's something we think has that potential to scale. And this, you'll see where we expect things to pay back is much longer than the testing window. So, we are taking about a month to measure the game, and in that game make a judgment call based on the data we're seeing and the comparative games we've seen, whether we think it's one that'll end up being profitable and scalable. So sorry, I should have put this graph up a little bit earlier, right? So here's what I was talking about. Here's this red line. This is my graph for payback windows right here from a model that I used to put together a couple graphs for this presentation. So this red line is $10,000 of UA spend. I spend $10,000 on day 0 and I get some number of players. And every day, those group of players watch some ads and they spend some money. And so this green line is measuring the lifetime value, the amount of revenue that cohort has generated. And it keeps rising and rising and rising. And if you're lucky, this isn't a guarantee. Not all games can even do this. But if you're lucky, you will, or skilled, I should say, or kind of a combination of both, at some point, the green line and the red line will cross over. That'll be your payback window. That'll be your payback point. And from then on, the space between the green line and the red line is the profit that you're seeing on that initial investment of $10,000 in user acquisition cost. So how does that come into play, right? So this graph I showed you, now I'm going to show it to you in a little bit of a smaller format, but this is the numbers we were just looking at. Let's assume a $10,000 investment, and it achieves payback on, excuse me, sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. So say you achieve investment, you achieve payback on day 280. Oh. Sorry to you in the audience, little sick, as I said. So $10,000 in investment, 280 days later, you break even. And then you see that game gets achieves a very slim profit that will grow over year 2 and beyond, assuming players keep playing, keep spending money and watching ads. Even though this is a game that is profitable at some point, right? Like I said, not all games even make it up to the red line. If this is a game we saw, and as I said, we don't test for a year, we test for like a month. We measure for about a month. But if after a month we projected that a game was going to have a 280-day payback window, that's a game we would probably pass on. That doesn't really meet what we're looking for in the scale platform, even though it is a game that can be profitable. Different types of companies, different types of genres. If you're working in a social casino game and you've got a really big bank account, you might say a 2-year payback window is appropriate and be willing to spend on marketing with really long payback windows and really invest in the long term in your game. But we at the NSP would probably pass on this game. I'm sorry. In this example, again, the same 10K in investment, I tweaked the underlying numbers so that players are spending more, their retention is better. And in this model, the game achieves payback on day 180. And then you can see it achieves a really healthy profit. And that profit will likely, based on the trajectory, continue to grow over year 2 and beyond. This is a game we would sign because when you're doing the marketing, this just represents one single day of marketing investment. We would be investing in a game like this day after day for months and years. And so what happens, even if you look at this and you might say, well, this is kind of a slim profit, that's just one day. And you're stacking and stacking those users on top of each other. And so, revenue grows and grows and grows over time to the point where this type of profit gets really healthy over a long period of time of sustained investment and sustained game performance. And then this was a third model I put together. This one was just like kind of a nuts, hit it out of the park. Like if we saw numbers like this one achieved payback in 30 days. If we saw numbers like this is a clear home run. This game would be a monster. And so if you have a game where you can spend in a free-to-play game where you can spend marketing dollars and within 30 days you're profitable, that game is going to be a big hit for you. So it's important to understand this. It's important to understand what a publisher like Network or an investor like Joachim is eventually looking for. Obviously some games do go viral, but most of the top grossing free-to-play games you're going to see, it's this equation that's really the engine that drives its growth. And just as an example, I mentioned Legendary Game of Heroes, which the game I was the lead designer on for a period of time. I haven't worked on it in a while. But in November 2019, we announced that we had done $250 million in lifetime revenue on Legendary. And that was, a year and a half ago. Legendary is still going strong. So that lifetime revenue is much higher today than it was back then. But at the time, we'd spent probably $100 million in marketing on Legendary. So we spent $100 million to grow the game to the point where it made $250 million and more and more and more as time has gone on. And so this is really the dynamics behind top grossing hit games on the App Store and the Play Store is having a great game with great metrics where kind of the payback window is somewhere where a really talented marketing team with a lot of good technology can spend, it's not easy to spend $100 million profitably. We've made, I think it's probably tens of thousands of different versions of ads for Legendary over the nearly 5 years it's been live. We've tried all sorts of different things. It's really easy to set $100 million on fire. It's much harder to spend it profitably like they have on Legendary. So hopefully now you understand through the coughing a lot more about what is kind of the engine, what we're looking for on the investment side as a publisher, or as I said, what someone like Joachim is ultimately looking for when he's looking to make an angel investment or a seed investment in a company. And now that you understand that equation, I'll bring you through some of the things that I am looking for as a game reviewer when I'm looking at a game and evaluating, do I think this is a game that Network should invest in? Right. So I pretty much have 4 evaluation criteria. Do I think this game will attract players? Is it fun enough to hook players? Does it have the progression depth to engage players for the long term? Does it have the monetization depth to power a scalable business? Right, these are all really important, and I really want to stress the depth one, the progression depth one. Right, if I go back to my chart of what is a successful game, 6 months is the payback window, and this is showing a year. Right, you need to have a game that players can play every day for multiple years. We're approaching Legendary's 5-year anniversary, and I know that there are players that have been playing that long daily. You need a game that has a lot of depth to be a successful, scalable, free-to-play business. So that progression depth is one of the areas that really I can't stress enough, because unless you're in the hyper-casual world, that's kind of a different business model, and I'm not really talking about that today. Hyper-casual games basically need to go viral. They're very hard to scale profitably through user acquisition because the revenue per player is so slim. But if you're looking more at a mid-core or a hardcore game, or even puzzle games, any game that you're not counting on going viral, you need to be prepared to have a really long-term relationship with your players in order to be successful. So attract. What do I mean by this? Right. Sorry, I just realized I interchanged terms here. I used CAC earlier, cost of acquiring a customer, and now I'm using CPI, cost per install. Same thing. So when I'm looking at a game, one of the things I'm thinking of is how's it going to look in advertising? Does it have a unique look? Will it stand out? I play, tens, hundreds of games, and I see ads for lots and lots of games, just like I'm sure many of you do. And most of them just in one ear, out the other, really. But when I'm looking at a game, I'm thinking, do I think it will have a low CPI? And that really means like, do I think it has a unique look that stands out? Can I grasp the gameplay quickly? And will I be able to create a variety of ads, right? Can I just watch a 10-second video? Can I just watch a 10 or 15-second video and really understand the gameplay? This is a screenshot from Match 3D, which is a game I got served an ad for recently, and just instantly I'm like, oh, this game is going to be a massive hit. And another game publisher, Tilting Point, is publishing it. They're going to spend $75 million on user acquisition on this game. And it's just like, it's so clear, appealing, novel gameplay. This is one of those games you look at as an evaluator and you go, this game is definitely going to look great. It's going to have a low CPI. So as a game developer, what can you do? Like if you're like a small indie studio or a small studio, you left some bigger place to go out on your own, you're building a free-to-play game. It's likely you don't have any marketers on your team, or you might not have a lot of marketing experience, but you can run CPI, cost per install tests, pretty easily and cheaply, right? And you don't need a lot of things to do it. This is an Instagram ad for Tohu Lost World that I saw. This game wasn't live at the time, right? For all I know, they're running 10 different advertisements with different visuals advertising games called Tohu Lost World just to figure out which one has the lowest, has the best response rate and the lowest cost per install. Right, so you can make these ads cheaply with just an image. You can get very expensive with them. Like I said, I've seen tests that are just a single image. I personally have made like a 15-second video of fake gameplay. I didn't even make a demo. There was one game where all we did was we made a 15-second video. We ran a test on it. And what was really interesting in that one, we tested the same 15 seconds with two different names, and one of them had half the cost the other one did. Like one of them cost $2 to install a player, one of them cost $1 to install a player. Same ad, the only thing I changed was the name. And so I really suggest that early on, if you're going to build a service-based game or a free-to-play game, figure out how you can do a cost per install test as soon as possible. Try out different looks, right? Try out different names for your game. You might have a look that in your gut and a name in your gut that you think is right for your game. You might discover something totally different when you put it in front of players. So it's really important to be thinking about this early and testing this early. And if you go to a publisher like a network scale platform and you said, hey, we did some CPI tests and here's what we found, like that data is going to be really helpful for us and it's going to put you a cut above the 24 other games we're evaluating at the same time, for sure. The next thing I look at is hook. Is this game going to hook me? Is it fun? Is it polished and juicy? Will the first 10 minutes leave me wanting more and more? And honestly, this is where the magic of game development is. Chaos Road, which is the game I said we've multiplied the revenue 16 times. Like this game is a Spy Hunter inspired, really simple game to play. If in the first couple minutes you're like, for me, I was hooked right away. I loved it. It was a great game. I played it for a couple weeks every day. And I'll be honest, there's no silver bullet for fun. There's nothing I can put up on this slide that will really solve this problem for you. Like either your game's fun or it's not, either it's attractive to an audience or it's not. This is really the magic and the art of making games. And the best advice I can give to you is eliminate friction, get to the game as fast as you can, like let people play. Don't put a lot of at least in the world of free-to-play mobile games, I personally don't think long cutscenes, a lot of friction, a lot of reading, a lot of story, menus, forced registration, asking for notifications. Like, if you have to spend $10, $15, $20 to get someone to even try your game, and the math is overwhelmingly that they're not going to spend any money ever in your game, like, you want to maximize that opportunity. And to me, that means letting them get to the game and have some fun as fast as possible. And something I think is really important to think about, a lot of games are iterative. A lot of games borrow from other games, build on top of them. It's very obvious that Legendary built on top of Puzzle and Dragons and took a lot of inspiration from it. And, right now, when I'm evaluating games for the NSP, I'll see the same genres over and over again. And like, look, Archero is a great game. I love playing Archero. And I understand wanting to do it and do it one better. And the thing that's important is that you actually do something one better, right? If you're a Merge game or an Archero game or a Clash of Clans game, like, you have to do something to stand out from all the other games that already exist, because chances are players that you're appealing to have already played several games in that genre. Sorry. I'm really sorry for all the coughing and mouth noises. I hope it's not too bad on your end. One example I'll give is this game, Top War, which there have been countless Clash of Clans clones over the years. And this one is one where even in just 15 seconds of an advertisement, you can tell that it's something new and different and that it's bringing something new to the genre. And so I think it's really important. These are such crowded marketplaces that you have to have something in your game that the player is going to see in the first 5-10 minutes that makes it clear that this is different than the other games they've played in the genre. And also, it's really important that first 10 minutes, either you just have to have beautiful evergreen gameplay, right? Like, I'm very lucky to work on Tetris. Tetris is one of the most evergreen, most successful gaming brands there is. And like, that's very rare. It's incredibly rare to have a game like that. So in most instances, you want something in your game that in the first 10 minutes, the player is going to see, and it'll make it clear that there are hundreds of hours of fun to be had playing this game. Oh. Wow. I left out a slide. All right. I apologize for this. I left out a slide about progression depth. So let me just talk to it very quickly. As I said, to have a successful free-to-play business, you're going to need a lot of things for your players to do, a lot of things for them to want, a lot of things for them to invest in, right? Like, Toon Blast has thousands and thousands of levels. I haven't played it in 2 years. For all I know, it has 10,000 levels by now. Same with Candy Crush, right? Legendary, we release an event every week. I think we do 2 events a week now. I think we do one during the week and one on the weekends, or sometimes overlapping. This is a game, Funko Pop Blitz. We do a new IP-based event every week. Doctor Who, Back to the Future, How to Train Your Dragon, Shrek, etc., right? Like, successful free-to-play businesses have a lot of depth to them because, as I said, it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months for a set of players that you installed to become profitable. That means from those players you installed, there's some set of them, some set of that initial day zero cohort that's playing every day for 6 months, 9 months, 2 years, 5 years, right? This is what it takes to have a successful free-to-play business. And so you really need to be thinking about what the progression depth is. I've given a talk at GDC a couple years ago called the Tower of Want. If you want some advice on progression depth, I suggest just Googling Tower of Want. There's a lot of great insight in that one. And it's really important, especially at the early stages of your game, you're making sure that you're planning for plenty of things for your players to earn, plenty to invest in, and plenty to want. Events is kind of the critical thing that powers a lot of free-to-play games. Fortnite does incredible work with seasons. As I said, Funko Pop Blitz has weekly events. the core thing that players are doing tends not to change that much. It tends to be a couple big features a year, and then the events just put a new shine on whatever that core gameplay is. But you need to be thinking about, these games are hobbies, not just like games you pick up and put down. And so if it's a hobby, you need to be thinking about how you keep it fresh every week for years. Another thing that helps with progression depth is multiplayer, teams or guilds. Collaborative events is really like the critical backbone of Legendary. People working together to make progress together while competing against other teams. And something that's really important is to think about your Elder game, and not just, I think especially if you're a mid-core or hardcore game, you should be thinking not just about one Elder game, but many Elder games, right? You might, for your soft launch, only build one Elder game, but you need to plan and make sure that your core gameplay can support multiple different types of Elder games, because as I said, you're going to be in a relationship with these players for years. And, it's easy for me to look back at games that I've made and say, wow, I wish I had done this and this and this different in the first 3 months of development. And that would have dramatically changed the Elder games that we would have been able to build in year 3 or year 4. That's a lesson. I'd say I'm lucky to have learned, because not every game can have that sort of relationship with its players. But assuming you can attract gamers, assuming that you can hook them, then it's all about progression depth. And progression depth leads naturally to monetization depth, right? Your spenders, even in a very successful game, will be a very small portion of your total audience. And you have to be thinking about and designing for, will players have enough to spend on? Will these purchases be appealing? Will they be repeatable? Will they be desirable? And will there be purchases that cater to players at different points in their life? I evaluated a game this week where I thought, hey, this game is fun. It hooked me, played for 20 minutes easy. If I didn't have other things to do, I'd play for longer. It has a unique look for its genre. I think it's going to, it would really stand out in a CPI test, but there's nothing to buy here, and they don't have a very good rewarded video monetization in their game. So we should tell them that they need to improve these things, because we think this game can be a success, but right now it's a pass. We're not even going to test them, right? It's really important that you make sure that that portion of your audience that are spenders, that there's enough of it for them to spend money on to be profitable for your game. And just like as an example, it's been a couple years that Legendary has been releasing at least 6 new heroes every week. Sorry about that. But yeah, monetization, if your game has good progression depth, if you have good player retention, this is something that is actually not that hard to improve. You have to do the really hard stuff first, and then there's kind of some standard things you can do a lot. So progression depth really underpins monetization. So you as a game developer need to invest in your progression depth. Make sure there's really a lot of deep RPG elements to your game, or if it's a casual puzzle game, a lot of levels to play that players never run out, and levels of high difficulty so they spend boosts. But you really have to invest in a lot of content, or else a really beautiful, evergreen, infinitely repeatable multiplayer game, right? A game like Clash Royale that has just a wonderful pick-up-and-play multiplayer game doesn't need nearly as many characters or as much progression depth as a game like Legendary. Limited time events help not only with kind of the depth of your experience and keeping things fresh, but they also often drive the urgency they drive the urgency that kind of motivates a player to spend money. And really, the best advice I can give, 2 parts. One is, it's easy to look up what the top grossing games in your genre are. Play them 6 times a day, every day for weeks and weeks and months. Really get to that Elder game and understand why it is people are spending hundreds to thousands of dollars in the game. That's really the way to understand how your genre works. And don't overlook rewarded video ads. I've been bringing up the Chaos Road case study again and again. And as I said, we've multiplied the revenue 16 times in that game. And a big part of that was helping them with the rewarded video placement, and then helping them with the logic that controls which rewarded videos are being played. And so on games on the network side, like Chaos Road or like Tetris, ad monetization is really a very large part of the revenue stack. And I would say don't overlook rewarded video ads. This is one of the number one pieces of advice I pass on to game developers when we pass on their game for after reviewing it, why we pass on it instead of going to a user acquisition test. So that's what I'm, that's the talk. That is what I'm looking for. Those are the components that I think lead to a scalable game. So, the too long didn't read is that investors, whether they're a VC like Joachim looking for a seed investment, or whether they're a publisher like the Network Scale platform, what we're looking for is the same thing, and that's games with exponential growth potential. Understanding the business model, understanding that CAC versus LTV equation will help you master it and really help you understand the perspective of the people on the other side of the table, what they're looking for, what they're looking for when they look if they think they should give you some money or invest money in marketing in your game. And it takes more than a great game to build a scalable business. There are plenty of games, hundreds of games that I'll see over the course of a year that are fun, great games, look great, have a good hook, fun to play, but they don't have what it takes to be scalable businesses. So when you're developing a free-to-play game or service-based game, you can't think about these topics early enough. You can't think about how as early as possible, maybe before gameplay, you're working on what is our look, what is our name, let's test it, let's see if we have what it takes to attract players. How do we prototype it quickly, put it in front of people we trust, make sure we have a game that'll hook people. And then once you have a game with that, basic core interaction, really make sure that when you're developing your game, you're thinking about not just a couple days worth of content or a week worth of content, but how you're going to have a multi-year relationship with your players, how you're going to keep them engaged and playing daily every day for months and months and years. And having this sort of depth will naturally lead to desirable, repeatable purchases. And just, again, can't stress it enough, don't sleep on rewarded video ads. It can be a really meaningful portion of revenue for a lot of games. So I really think a well-done rewarded video ad placement is one of the lowest hanging pieces of fruit for the majority of free-to-play games that I look at. And so that is my talk. Thank you for listening. I apologize again for all the coughing, the muting, and the times I didn't mute especially. I hope that wasn't too painful to listen to. Contact me if you want me to look at your game. If you think your game's a good fit for the Network Scale platform, reach out to me on LinkedIn, email me. My email's here. Follow me on Twitter. Or if you have a game in development, you have a game early on, you want me to look at it and tell you what I think about its potential to scale, just hit me up. I love talking to game developers. And thank you for listening to the penultimate ECGC talk on this Friday night.
Ethan, I appreciate you being a trooper and being awesome and going through and doing this. We got one question from Tom. When you sign a game, you're just committing to a 10K marketing test, correct?
Well, so sorry, I'm just putting my the test is not signing a game. Signing a game is someone who's gotten past the test and we've said, yes, we want to publish this game. So we test many, many more games than we end up publishing with that up to 10K advertising test.
All right. If anybody else has got a question, toss it out there. Otherwise, we're going to let Ethan get some rest. I feel you, man. I was in your spot last weekend. So I don't see anything coming in. Are you on the Discord, Ethan?
No, I'm not, but I have Discord on my phone. I'll go join the Discord. I'm Famous Aspect on Discord as well, so feel free to reach out to me there, but I'm not, I'll be honest, I'm not as active on Discord as I should be. So if you want to chat, LinkedIn or Twitter is the place.
All right, we got a couple. Do you ever encounter games which check all the right boxes on the surface, but the back-end code is not built to scale and you have to turn it down?
You know, I have not been as involved on the technical end. I don't think that has happened. And honestly, I think that if we had a game that was profitable, that was worth investing in, but that we started, but had technical issues once we got, brought them to new levels of DAU count. I'm kind of speaking out of turn here, but I'm pretty sure that we would work with that team to help them fix their back end issues. We've got great engineers at Network. We've built games that have scaled to many DAU and concurrent users, and so I think this is probably one of those good problems to have. I've played games that are too buggy that I just give up on them in 5 minutes. Like, honestly, there's a game that got submitted to us. I almost felt like, how did this even get past the initial checkpoint? I loaded it up, I shot one enemy and it crashed. So technical issues have prevented plenty of games. We'll say, hey, we're having too many technical issues. Please come back to us after you fixed X, Y, and Z. But I don't think we've had any things where we've been like, yes, this game has everything it takes, but I can't handle 10,000 concurrent users or whatever.
But could this marketing model be extrapolated for board games, for example? What would some big differences be?
Yeah, I think this marketing model, it underpins all. It's the same for everything. It's just on the phone, you can track people to a per user basis, right? If you published your own board game and you spent $10,000 in marketing and you generated $5,000 in sales, you would go out of business eventually, right? Like, all marketing is trying to do is you can look at all marketing as a profitable, or as an investment that's looking for profit or not on overcoming those costs, right? So something I'd think about with marketing, I'm in my attic, I've got my board games over there, and there are a bunch of them where I have the core set and I've got expansions and I've got spin-off games, and I'm sure you do too. And so if I were a board game developer, which I would love to be, I would be thinking about, how do I create that multi-year relationship with my players? And how do I make it easy for them to contact me and me to contact them, right? Could I build a Discord community just around my board games, right? Because the thing you're really going to want to think of, if you're thinking of how do I have a multi-year relationship with my players, you need to have players on an email list, on your Discord server, following you on Twitch and Twitter and all those places, so that when you come out with the expansion or when you come out with the Kickstarter on the next game, you are not spending money to remarket to the same people to make them aware that you exist, right? So the biggest lesson I would take from this, actually two, right? The first one I would start with is just thinking about, how am I going to create a multi-year relationship with my fans? I think that's really important for board game developers. And then I do think that you could probably benefit from testing out different looks and different names for your game, right, before committing to one. I'm not sure if Board Game Geek lets you buy ads on it or not, actually, but like, you can certainly on Instagram or Facebook target people who like Settlers of Catan and Bonanza and stuff. And so I think you could try out different things to see if kind of like, it's not going to be the same thing where you're not going to say, oh, this one costs $12 a click and this one costs $10 a click. And if it's $10 a click, I know I've got a hit game. But it is going to be, if one look, if you call your game Trials of Algernon, and one has a sci-fi theme with that name and one has a fantasy theme with that name, and they have completely different art styles, you might find out that one of them is basically twice as appealing as the other. So I think there are some lessons there too on testing out the look and feel of your game. But, if you've got a game like Bonanza, like, who would going with the game about bean farming? That's just one of those instincts, I think.
So Nathan says, I'm genuinely curious about how you guys filter out these copy paste games that shouldn't even be on the market. Also, how do you feel about those ads that represent a completely different game?
Yeah. So there is a team of biz dev people and producers, and those games don't even get to game review, basically. So like a game that just like doesn't, when I said before, it takes 24 review games getting reviewed to find one worth publishing. There's a layer of filtration above that prevents obvious misses from getting to the game reviewers. Because the people who are working on game reviews are not doing that full time. Like, as I said, I'm the executive producer of a game franchise. I don't have a lot of time to be playing pure garbage. And like Gina is doing design and product management support on our whole suite of games. She doesn't spend her entire day reviewing, and same for Lawrence and anybody else in our company who's contributing to reviews. So luckily there's a layer above us that just filters out garbage. What do I think about those ads that represent a completely different game? It must work. Otherwise, people would have stopped doing it. I don't understand why it works. It kind of baffles me. I'm not a marketer. I'm a game designer more than anything, and so I just don't understand. I mean, it's kind of, to me, it must be almost like, you know, people are still sending spam. Spam must work. Somehow it's worth it for somebody to just be sending all those spam messages. So, a game that's making, you know, with completely misleading ads. I don't know why that works, but apparently it does.
But it does. That's the end of the day. If you see something repeated over and over in the market, it obviously works, or they wouldn't be doing it.
Right. Either it works, or there's an insane person out there with a bucket of money that they're just setting on fire every day.
Discount that either. So is there a place that you go to spy on game stats and watch ads for competing games?
Most of the ads I see for competing games are in games. I mean, everybody who's working on the Scale platform plays games daily, and if you're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, like, you're seeing my ad reel. The ads that are served to me are almost entirely game ads and like some random Kickstarters for, you know, pants, like super hiking pants or whatever that YouTube thinks I want. So most of the ads we just see in the wild. We use a tool called Sensor Tower. There's a lot of great tools out there. I've never been on the licensing end, so I don't know how much it costs to subscribe to
they are not
Sensor Tower.
indie studio friendly pricing.
Yeah. So honestly, there's kind of a lot you can get from like what's freely available on Sensor Tower, but like really just knowing where a game is ranking. And then maybe you can watch some GDC talks or ECGC talks where people might drop some stats in that allow you to do back-end envelope things. But like, you know, to be honest, like if I knew Brawl Stars had a day 30 retention rate of 18%, would that help me in any way? Not really. I already know it's a successful game based on its top grossing rank. So any of these services are, you know, like Game Refinery does this whole game taxonomy and like has different people analyze it. And really the best for me, the best you can do is like, I think you can get a lot of value looking for top grossing games in your genre and then just playing them really deeply. You know, for me personally, playing them really deeply is the difference between like, I think Game of War is stupid and looks ugly, and I don't understand why it makes any money. And then 6 months later, you know, I'm waking up at 4 a.m. during a state versus state battle to go raid someone else's city. And I'm like, I understand everything that's smart about this game. There's a lot, you know, behind the art that I don't like. There's a lot that's smart about this game and a lot that I've learned that I've applied to my own games.
So last one, we'll let you go. How quickly do you know if a game's going to be successful?
So as I said, if we do a test, I think it's like roughly 3 to 4 weeks of we spend the money to invite people in, and then we measure them. We let them mature for about 2 or 3 weeks, and obviously, 2 weeks doesn't let you know what's going to happen 6 months later. 3 weeks, a month doesn't let you know what's going to happen later. But because we have really experienced marketing professionals who've done this on a lot of games, we have really great technology that lets us benchmark, how one game is performing against another, and model out different scenarios based on what we think is going to happen. We also have a lot of technology that makes it, as I said, it's not easy to spend $100 million in marketing. Like, we have things that optimize spend where the way we buy ads is going to be way different than the way like an indie studio would. So I would say it takes us that month to make a determination on if we think a game will be successful or not. And then once we've signed that game, every day is spending money, measuring the results, improving what's happening, and seeing, the way it works is we kind of start at one baseline of spend. Say we're going to spend this much money every day. Once we know for sure that's successful, then we scale up that spend, and then scale up that spend, and scale up that spend. Our game is our goal is to maximize the amount we're spending profitably on a game every day, so we can make as much money for us and the developers. And then there are some games we sign, and I think it's happened like once or twice, especially with the early ones, where we think something's going to be successful, and we spend on it, and we spend on it. And we're watching those things over time, and things didn't pan out over that 6 months like we thought they would, and those are relationships we have to end. So it takes us, the short version is, it takes us a month to make a very well-informed decision, and then most of the time it's just a question of how much a success can we bring to that game.
Ethan, thanks so much, man. Hope you feel better soon. Get some rest.
Thank you. If you scheduled me Wednesday, I would have had to cancel. This is the best I've been in a week.
I'm telling you, I was there last weekend. It's all good. All right. For the rest of you out there, we will be back in about 10 minutes with Alexander from Epic doing your introduction to Unreal. In the meantime, go pick on Lee and make him give you some art portfolios on the Discord, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.